God has literally saved my life. I used to have a diagnosis list from 10 years old. Long. ADD, ADHD, bipolar, BPD, I've got PTSD. I had depression, anxiety, all of the things like I had been diagnosed with from a young age. I don't deal with any of those things now. I might have moments where, something happens and I'm sad or anything. But boy, when I tell you that God literally saved my life, because now the things that used to bother me don't. I am a recovering addict. When I first got sober, I buried myself in church. I grew up in church. I did all the youth groups and the summer youth camps and all of that stuff. My grandparents put me in all of that. And I'm so glad that they did. I might have fought them when I was a kid. I don't want to do this. But I'm so glad that they did, because they really planted that seed for me when I was little and I didn't even realize it. At the time, I was a single mom. I had just left my kids' abusive dad. It was 10 years of domestic violence. And it was terror getting away. But I did it, and I grabbed my kids up and I took them to a sober living. And I started coming here with my family in November. Everybody always talks about a mustard seed. It was literally a mustard seed. And but when I was invited here, I literally felt a pull like nothing I had ever felt before. So we started coming here November. First service, Pastor Josh was, of course, fire. And we had asked for some special prayer after service, as my husband and I were trying to conceive. It all happened so quick. It was like, wow, God's really listening. We got pregnant. And then December 17th, I had actually lost the baby. And the way that my mental health declined, it almost took me out. I was making plans. I was ready for somebody else to raise my kids. And it got to a point to where I heard, give your protection to your friend. And in my mind, it was a crazy a crazy feeling to have, to think that, the things that I have to protect myself from other people are probably not safe for me right now. And having her there to take those things away was a big blessing in itself. I kind of just gave my pistol to my friend and said, I don't trust myself. Can you hide this? And honestly, I feel like if I would not have listened to God in that moment, telling me that that was what I needed to do, the devil would have won. I learned a lot in those moments where it was just me on my knees in tears on my floor, crying out to him. And it was like, even in little moments, little things, when you're on your knees and you're saying, God, just give me a sign. I just want to see a butterfly. Just let a butterfly fly in front of my car. Or, I just want to see a white flower. And then you see those little things and you're just like, some people may think it's silly, but when you're really in a dark place, it's those little tiny confirmations that's like, thank you for listening. Thank you for never giving up on me, because a mess of a child I am. As a lot of people know, my husband and son were in a really bad motorcycle accident that should have taken them. Absolutely should have taken them. And God spared them. It's a huge blessing. And when I tell you, I hit the ground running after that. I never say no to serving. I would be here every Sunday, beginning to end, if they would let me. God has just been in my forefront of that's all I'm chasing. That's all I'm chasing. That's it. Some of me says, I wish I would have listened sooner. I would have come to God sooner, younger, which is one of the reasons why I bring my kids faithfully. I don't care if you want to go. You are going. Because they'll thank me for it one day. The change, though, in my children since coming here, worship for them is them also with their hands in the air. And when you look down the aisle and you see your husband, all of your kids, hands raised in worship, there's no greater feeling.
I know some of you have probably walked in this morning, saw me with my sweatshirt, and thought to you, I'm sure you thought this to yourself, great, Pastor Josh is preaching. I knew you were excited to hear what I have to say, but I'm just the warm-up act today. Don't worry though. I know how this goes. I've done this long enough to know that you come to expect to hear from a certain person, and someone invariably right now is thinking either here or in Zanesville, oh, I've invited my friend and I've told them about our church, and now someone else is going to represent our church, and you're a bit worried about that. But I don't want you to worry, because today you're going to get someone with a beautiful British accent, authentic wisdom, and arguably better hair than me. I'll let you be the judge of this, okay? The sweatshirt I'm wearing today, many of you, I see a couple of you with it. We put it out some time ago. It says Wasamog, and it stands for this. It stands for we are stewarding a move of God. My wife tells me anytime I wear a shirt that has writing on it, I have to tell you what it says or what it means if it's secret, because then you're fixated on the shirt. And so we're stewarding the move of God, and as a part of stewarding what God is doing in this house, it means bringing voices into this house that can help us see clearer, believe bigger, and give language to things that we're walking through. Over the last decade, the last 10 years of my life, no one, and I don't say this lightly, I thought this through quite a lot. No human being has given more of themselves, time, wisdom, correction, encouragement, and belief than today's guest. He hasn't just invested in my leadership, y'all. He's invested in me. He's spoken into my blind spots. He's lifted me when I felt stuck and challenged me to grow when I felt like I was comfortable. I feel a responsibility as your pastor as it relates to gifts in two significant ways. Well, number one, I need to help you. I'm called to help you reach your full potential in the gift God has given you. And second, to expose you to the gifts that I don't carry so that you can be shaped and stretched and matured by gifts that I don't possess. In the book of Ephesians, the Bible says this: when Jesus ascended on high, he gave gifts to men, and then lists some functions of styles of voices that he sent into the earth. And Paul represents one of those gifts to us. So today, you get to experience a gift that has shaped my life in ways that I can't begin to measure. I know what his voice has meant to me. And I believe that God is about to use that same voice that he's used to unlock things on the inside of me, to unlock things on the inside of you. So, with all the honor and gratitude in my heart, I want to ask you, More Life, Newark and Zanesville, to put your hands together and welcome my friend and a strong mentor in my life all the way from the United Kingdom, my friend, Paul Scanlon. Would you welcome him this morning, please? It's a long walk, so keep it going if you don't mind. Make him feel really welcome.
I love you, man.
I love you.
Are we on? Yes, we're on. Good morning. Thank you. Well, it's tough to follow that, eh? I've got to be so brilliant now. Good morning to Zanesville. It's a joy to be patching into your world this morning. We're going to have a great time tonight. You guys together with the family here, I know. I pastored the same church in England for 32 years. Thank you. Thank you. Here's your $20 for that, because someone should have clapped. I don't know. You get so used to saying that about things you all do in your life, don't you? It becomes just what you do. And when somebody says, wow, you're like, why are you wowing me? It's just what I do. And it's just not what you do. It's amazing. Anybody that does the same thing for decades, let alone 30, and sticks with it and continues while you're sticking with it to continue to grow yourself and it not to kill you off, which ministry kills more off than it's kind to, I think is the truth over 40 plus years of watching church leadership and churches around the world. You guys know this, but you are really blessed to have these guys here leading the church here, Josh and Angie and the team with them. They're blessed to have you on this journey with them. I know you know that, and I know they know that. But I've spent a lot of decades around churches and in green rooms and meeting with church leaders and pastors and the great and the famous in the church for a long time. And you have a rare jewel here in Josh. And he's getting better. Thank you. Yeah. Well, maybe you all don't know. Maybe the we is not everyone. I wish it was. But I'm here to say, as an outsider coming in, he is very smart. And a lot of pastors aren't. They're just not. He's very smart. What I mean by that is he is widely read. He's widely read. He is aware of his blind spots and wants to work on them. He's open and humble to correction and help and input. A lot of leaders are not. A lot of men leaders are not. But he is, and it's been a joy being his friend and his mentor to whatever degree I've been able to be that over the years. And he's playful and he's mischievous. I like that too, because playfulness is one of the first casualties of longevity. When you do the same thing for a long time in the people business, your sense of humor tends to take a hit. And it's risky to be playful in a religious setting because it can be misunderstood. But he continues to push the boundaries of that and be playful with you all. And I am no help to him in that at all. I only enable him in that me. So we should keep us apart more maybe than I often said to him, if I lived near where you were, people would try to keep us apart. But he is. And I teach a lot around the world now. I spend most of my life in corporates. I was just doing corporate events in New York, and I fly today to do corporate events in Switzerland. And I teach them, I teach leaders about the need to develop self-awareness. Josh is one of the most self-aware people I know. He said, what's self-awareness? Self-awareness is the awareness of how other people experience you, knowing that, and adjusting where you need to serve them better. Self-awareness tells you what words on a shirt mean to include you in something, otherwise you'd be excluded by. Self-awareness lets you know, if I don't tell you the name on the shirt, you could be thinking all day, what's that shirt, what's that mean, what's that mean? And you are an outsider to an insider word, and good leadership doesn't like anybody to be an outsider, so explains the word on the shirt. That's called self-awareness. It's a beautiful thing, and it's rare, and you're blessed to have it in him. So this is a mutual appreciation moment we're having here. So forgive us if we're overindulgent. I'll stop now. But thank you. It's a joy to be here. I'm going to read to you from 2 Kings 4, verse 1 to 7, a well-known story, but we won't hold that against it. Because there's things in this story that I think are relatively unknown and unseen, which is where I specialize, to try and find things and angles and insights that are not common in old passages. Part of my calling is to find something unusual inside something that's quite common. and then to make that unusual thing accessible to everyone by simplifying it if it presents as complex in the scripture. So we'll do a bit of that this morning. 2 Kings 4, 1-7. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that he revered the Lord, but now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha replied, "How can I help you? Tell me what you have in your house." "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, note that term. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. Note that too. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." I said to you, note the phrase and the idea that all the jars were full and then the oil stopped flowing, because it's important, I think, to keep reminding ourselves when we read passages like this and get phrases like that so close together, that God didn't run out of oil in this woman's life, nor in yours. He ran out of emptiness. She ran out of emptiness. And when you run out of emptiness, God stops pouring. When you run out of emptiness, God loses interest in your life and in our lives as churches. That's why to see Paige on screen this morning as a previously very empty person, to now be talking to us about how much she feels she's been filled, her life has been filled, is the business of the church. It is why we exist. And when we run out of pages, God stops pouring. Because all that's left after we stop finding pages to reach, more pages to reach, and many of you were pages too. Many of you were that I was. But when you run out of people like Paige, who are empty and need to be poured into from us, we replace that with a church, relationships, friendships, communities, where we pour into already full people. So blessed people bless other blessed people. And people that are full spend their lives and time with other full people. And we enter into some version of what we had in our church before I committed to reinvent it, because we got stuck around this idea. I didn't realize that God was not drawn to fullness and never has been through history. It seems a contradiction when we talk so much about being full of the Spirit and full of faith and full of God and full of love. We use this term full all the time, not realizing God is not drawn to fullness. God has no interest in full people. If you're full, you don't need God. And so I began to commit to empty my life on a regular basis into other people. I began a process of committing to decluttering my life on a regular basis of things that otherwise would take up space and make me be a full person, and I would be so full that I would not be aware of others that were empty who needed me to pour into them, because full people hang out with full people and we have a full experience, but we sing songs about emptying ourselves. We sing songs and preach sermons about reaching the world. This was our church, but we're not doing it. We're actually having a great time together celebrating our fullness. And I got fed up of laying hands on the same people every week who did not need another hand laying on them for the rest of their life. How many times do you need to be prayed for before someone says to you, maybe you just need to grow up a little bit, take some responsibility for a couple of things we've been talking about recently, and just work on that for the next 6 months. And I think if you do that, you'll be fine. Some version of that is what we weren't saying, because what we do is we let you come and receive prayer when we know you're already full of counsel and help and assistance and prayer and ministry, intercession and what have you, and you still come. And what we do is we create a codependent relationship between leadership and followers, where we get into this dance, this performance. And that was our church. And I realized we were dying in a box called fullness, but no one knew it was a box. Not all coffins are shaped like coffins. Some of them are shaped like full churches with full people that are happy and blessed, and forget that they were Paige, and forget Paige is down the road and she's in town. So I wanted to pause on that idea for a moment before I come to the bigger thought I have about this passage in a moment. To remind you on your 21st anniversary that God is not drawn to fullness. God is drawn to emptiness. You need to keep creating space in your life for God to stay interested in your life. Keep creating space through vulnerability, through asking questions and being curious, through saying, I don't know, I don't understand that, please help me with this. Keep being open and keep being creating room to grow by volunteering, by giving time, by not being selfish and just living for you. Keep being generous in all the ways that you can. Keep asking questions. Keep all of those things represent a person whose life isn't saying, I'm full, don't need anything anymore. In the parable of the banquet in Luke 13, I think it is, when the banquet's ready and the master sends out all the servants to the invited guests on the guest list, they all send excuses saying, oh, we'd love to come, but we're too busy. We're doing this, we're doing that. This is a picture of the church, by the way, in case you haven't understood that passage. It was a picture of the Jews, I suppose, of God's people, who were all saying, well, we'd love to come to the party, but we're all kind of too busy. And so rather than shut down the party because no one's coming, the master, representing God, said to his team, to his staff, go then out into the highways and byways and find the blind and the poor and the crippled and the unloved and the pages. Go find those people and bring them in, because my house will be full. And God doesn't care who the house is full with. It tells you that God will have the house full with people that weren't on the invite list, rather than have the house empty because the invite list didn't come. You understand? So never think that God will only fill this place with people like you. God will fill this place with whosoever will kind of thing is God's heart, because he's not drawn to full people who are too busy, and if they are, he'll say, well, let's find someone else then. A final thought in this area. Electric vehicle owners suffer from something called range anxiety. Don't know if you've heard of this. They're anxious that they don't have enough charge in the battery to get to where they're going. So they're not sure there's enough range in terms of mileage in the battery. So they're driving, wondering where's the next charging port, or they're looking at the screen, what have I got left in the battery? And there's a degree of anxiety about the range of the car versus the charge left in, and it's a real thing. It's a psychological real thing with electric vehicle owners. And of course, electric vehicle manufacturers are putting billions into solving, the range problems and putting nothing into the anxiety, which would be far cheaper to fix. This was happening. because technology thinks everything is fixed by more technology. And what the anxiety is saying is, we are still humans in these cars. I'm anxious. Don't give me more gadgets. Help me manage my anxiety about this. And there's much more of that coming with AI. I tell you that because I wanted to remind you with this and leave you this as a metaphor. The church has suffered and still does from spiritual range anxiety. We stay near home. We stay close to charging ports of the people around us we plug into. We stay close to resources and certainty and supply that we find in the church. And we don't want to venture too far away from the charging point of here in case we run out, because people out there that want to plug into you can be very draining. So we suffer in the church from our own version of range anxiety, so we constantly want top-ups and boosts to make sure we always have enough in the tank to never be afraid of running out in case we bump into an over-demanding version of what you used to be, or I used to be. So, I want you to understand again that God didn't run out of oil. They ran out of emptiness. Okay. So, what's going on here is fascinating. She was married to a man in ministry who was part of the school of prophets that Elisha was in charge of. Her husband was a prophet in full-time ministry and died and left her with huge debts, just proving that being in ministry doesn't mean you're good with money. That's one thing I cursed to me to say. And in those days, they didn't just come and take the TV or the couch. They took the kids, which on some days, some of us would prefer. No, leave the TV, take the kids. I get it. I've been there too. So it's a real issue. So the kids have been taken to slavery. It's as bad as it gets. And Elisha says to her, well, what have you got in your house? Which is a strange question when clearly she's told him, I am already destitute and bankrupt. And he asks her this question, what do you have? So maybe she embarrassingly said, I got a bit of oil, like the loaves and fishes, when that was suggested. And when Andrew said, there's a boy here with some loaves and fishes, but how far will so little go towards so many? Maybe she had that going on when she said, well, I got a bit of oil. So he said to her, okay, this is what's going to happen. I want you to go, you and your boys, to all the neighbors, knock on every door you can and get anything you can that's a vessel that oil could be poured into. Get as many as you can, bring them into your home, shut the door, start pouring, and every vessel that you bring will get filled. I don't know how much detail he told her, but that was the idea. Now, the title of this message, in case you thought I'd forgotten, or there wasn't a title, or you thought, what's the title of the first message and this is the second one, is your resources are in your relationships. Now that matters to drop this in at this point, because at this moment, in her mind, imagine if in her mind she'd have said to Elisha, okay, I like the sound of this, except the bit about the neighbors. We don't get on with the neighbors. You know, we've been in the church all these years. We've made our stand for Jesus against those Muslims at number 32. You know, we really made our stand clear about the gay couple that live across the road. She might have gone through a list of all the people that we've demonized in the church and said to her, you know, I don't get on with them, and, you know, they're Republicans and we're Democrats, they're black, we're white, whatever it may be. As she went down the street saying, well, we can't go there, we can't, no, I don't think they'd be glad to see us that they don't know, can't go there. And gets it down to maybe 3 houses, I don't know, left. And she says to Elisha, Well, we can do that, but most people will not be glad to see us on their doorstep. They will not lend us anything because we don't get on with the neighbors here. Maybe 3 homes maybe will help us. In other words, the size of her miracle was absolutely dependent upon her circle of relationships. And so the resources that she needed for the oil to keep pouring, the vessels, the resources were the vessels, the resources she needed were in her relationships with the houses she was going to knock on the doors of. You with me? Yes. You can't borrow stuff from people who don't like you. And you can't borrow lots of stuff from people who don't like you, because she wanted every vessel in their homes. So if she'd have had a problem, her and her boys, with the community, and were just known as those Christians that go to those church, and but they used to be nice people, but now they've kind of become like this a little bit, and so I hope they don't ever come and ask me for anything. That's why what happens, as you all know, when there is a fire, as in California recently, or floods or hurricanes or some natural disaster, suddenly everybody in the neighborhood is leveled. There's no such thing anymore as black or white or rich or poor or Democrat or Republican or gay or straight, because everybody's house is taken out. And what it creates in those scenarios potentially is a whole new beginning, a reset on what it should have been like before this disaster forced us to depend on each other's humanity. So imagine if she said that to him. So the deal was this: God will do the miracle, the supernatural part, he's not asking her to do. But this was as much a miracle of her relationships as it was of anything God did supernaturally. God could have just said, look, I'm gonna fill the oil you've got, it's never gonna run out. And it could have stayed on the shelf. God could have done that. Instead, he involves her in this relational dependent scenario where she has to go and humble herself and ask for vessels and depend on their kindness towards her, which depends on her kindness and her husband's before he died and her boys towards them. She's going to reap what she's sown in terms of love and kindness in the community, I guess. God created the miracle to work that way. And it was going to be as big and as good as her relationships were, because her resources were in the people that she knew and she got on well with and she had been kind to and thought would be kind to her. Her resources were not in that bit of oil she had on the shelf for her last meal she could make. Her resources actually were far bigger than what she realized, and she would never have realized unless it had been set up this way. Your resources are not in your bank account or in what you own or your house or whatever material things we traditionally think are our resources. Because there are many, many times in your life, and there have been in mine, when you have everything that anyone could wish for, I suppose, in terms of material things, so you're resource rich. But some days, what you need is a phone number of someone that you don't know, who you know without that person's help, something that you desperately need to happen and get done is not going to get done. All of you involved in business here especially know what I'm talking about. When I was pastoring, we went through a period of about 6 months where the local power companies were digging holes to lay new cables. One of them was outside of our property, about half the size of this platform, the hole was. Our property was one road in, one road out, so this was the problem. So it went on for weeks. After the work had been done, and the pipes had been laid, and the workmen had gone, the hole was still there, not filled in. So I start getting my team onto the local authorities and to the power company to get the hole filled in. Nothing happened. And we had a reputation in our team for getting stuff done. I mean, we could get stuff done. We could not get this hall filled in. So this went on for weeks. Job's done, no one there, hall just there. It's getting dark at night, it's winter, it's getting dangerous even now for our people to get past and by, and for other people in the community walking by. So I am now so conscious of the hole and our failure to sort it out that every Sunday I'm kind of giving a whole update to the church. I'm like, well, folks, they're sorry about the hole again. We tried this week. We had a couple of calls. We were told they were going to come. They didn't. And I'm so hole conscious and obsessed. This hole was shouting at me, you can't fix me. You can't sort me. You've tried. You've failed. How embarrassing is that? It's just a hole. I'm thinking, I would get a shovel and fill it in myself. So I'm telling the church one morning about this whole update. Afterwards, I'm a mix, talking to people. I'm in the lobby and stuff and chatting. And a couple in our church, the guy's called Phil. The guy in our church called Phil's the businessman. And Phil said to me, hey, what company is it? So I told him the power company. Oh, okay. So Phil says to me, I've got a friend here with me today who's come. And his friend's name was Sam. So I said, Sam, come over here. He said, you heard this guy talking, Paul. He said, he's our pastor. He was talking this morning about this whole, he tells Sam. And Sam says, well, what company is it? So I tell Sam. Sam says, oh, how long has it been like this? I said, oh, about a month almost. Sam goes, what? I said, yes, I know. Got into my energy again about it. Sam said, no, hang on. Sam says, whoa, hang on. Sam goes over in the corner, pulls out, this is Sunday afternoon in England, which, by the way, if you don't know what I mean, Sunday England is still like Dickensian times. Everything shuts at like all day, generally in a lot of places, and it's regional, but it's Sunday. It's not a work day. No one's working in that power company for anything to happen. So this guy, Sam, gets out his phone. I'm watching from it, just thinking, what's he doing? What was he doing? He comes back. I hear him saying, hi, Joe. Hi, Joe. Hey, I'm down at this Life Church place. They've got a hole in the ground here. I think it's one of yours. Can you come and sort it out? It's driving these people nuts. Been going on for weeks, apparently. Right? Cool. Yeah. Okay. See you next week at golf. Cheers. I'm like, what just happened? So Sam comes back and says to me, okay, I talked to Joe, to which I'm thinking, who's Joe? Right? Who in the world is Joe? We've got everybody's name in that company. We've been ringing for weeks. There's no Joe on our call list. Who is Joe? Sunday. And Sam said to me, Joe said it'll be filled in by the end of today. And it was. Thank you. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much stuff you have, how much quotes resources you have. Sometimes all you need in your life is a Joe. Sometimes you just need Joe. Joe is the Willy Wonka golden ticket person. It's the person who knows something that you need to know. It's the person who you need to speak up for you and mention your name in a room you'll never be in, but he'll mention your name in that room, which gives you access to a space and a world and a connection you'd never have unless Joe speaks up for you. Sometimes all you need in life is a phone number of someone that can fix something that, despite whatever you've got going for you, you can't sort it out. I grew up like some of you did in a community where it was a village, and we shared everything. And if you didn't have something, you bought it from a neighbor and then from us. Literally, we went door to door as kids, me and my 5 siblings. We went door to door asking, do you have any bread? Do you have any sugar? Do you have any wood for the fire? And we'd do that, and we'd spend our childhood going around the community, borrowing from each other. I grew up like that. I grew up understanding our resources as a family were in our relationships with our neighbors and them with us. Every single parent in our community could discipline each other's kids. They'd all be in jail now for child abuse. But any mother could clip me around the head if I was being naughty. Any mother could slap me on the back of the head and be proud she did that and tell my mother, I caught him, he was doing, and my mother would thank her. What's going on here? It's so unfair. I couldn't get away with anything as a kid. Everybody's parents looked out for each other. It was the village we hear about. I grew up understanding community. I grew up being made to stand on the bus by my father. If a woman got on the bus and didn't have a seat, my dad would stand first, then he would make us stand. And I just did that all of my life. I still do it now. I made the mistake recently of helping a lady put her luggage into an overhead locker on the plane, and she was so offended. What happened to chivalry? She was like, don't you think I can do that myself? I'm like, what? So I'm like nervous now to help a lady with a bag out a door. Is that right? No? So I keep going? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I tell myself unless this woman was like G.I. Jane. I thought, you could probably put me up in that locker. So maybe she had a point. But ultimately, I want you to think today of your relational life, your relational world, and how large is it, how wide is it, and how often do you press refresh on it. And sometimes you are someone's Joe. Sometimes you need to speak up for someone. Sometimes you need to give someone a hand. Sometimes you need to open a door to someone, encourage someone, be kind to someone. On any given day, that's actually all it takes. You can have everything in the world that anybody would want and be deeply lonely, have very poor mental health, and just wish someone would even touch you in a kind way, put a hand on your shoulder or squeeze your hand. I've done a lot of research over these recent years on the epidemic globally of loneliness, the pandemic of loneliness and depression that's attached to it. And the link is only now newly being put together that much depression is to do with this isolation that we're experiencing in the Western world, where people can go all day, every day, day after day, and never speak to another soul, and certainly never have any meaningful physical contact with anyone. I've read about people who walk through crowds to be bumped, to physically be bumped by someone, to remind themselves that they're still alive, that they still matter, that they're still here, let alone someone be kind to them and squeeze their hand or give them a hug. That's why it's beautiful to be in a community like this, where we understand that this matters. That on any given day, what might change your life in this room is that someone just squeezes your hand or says something kind to you. You know, when you have been in a famine of kindness and someone's kind to you, especially a stranger, it's overwhelming. You will never ever forget kindness. People never ever forget kindness. What happened to kindness in our communities? What happened to kindness in our countries? What happened to kindness in our leaders? And so when people are kind to you, when no one's been kind to you, it becomes a resource. It becomes like an oasis in the desert of your otherwise lonely, desolate life. So don't underestimate today when you leave this building the power of just being kind to someone, smiling at someone. I do a lot of corporate work, as I said, and I was in a coffee shop in New York, and I went in, and the girl that was serving the coffee, let's just say her resting face was not great. You know what I'm saying? I mean, geez. I mean, she just looked like horrendous. A young kid, I'm like, wow. So, and I couldn't open the door. The door was so heavy on this building. I'm like on the door, and I work out. And so I thought, so I said to her, you know, the Incredible Hulk would have a workout with your front door. Me being playful, wrong thing to do. She didn't even look at me. She just kept her down and said, noted. That was it. And I thought, wow, what's going on for you? What that makes you be like that or choose to be here in a job like this when clearly you don't like people or maybe you don't like people today. And I understand that. I've been there. So to be kind to her is all I could do. Maybe that's somebody in your world today you'll meet or this week. Your resources are in your relationship. And sometimes the resource you most need is kindness and friendliness and love and someone looking in the eye and saying something encouraging to you. You know, when Jesus sent out the disciples, they were so concerned about where we will stay and what will we eat and our accommodation and where we will get, showered in the bathroom. And he said to them, no, you're not going to go with any money, no advanced bookings, no Ubers, no booking.com, no arrangements, just go. And he said, what will happen is this, each town you come to, wherever you find someone that is open to you, interested in you, then those are the places where you'll stay and find hospitality. Everything you think you need, the resources that you need to do this right are going to be in your relationships that you build on the road. He made them realize early on, I don't want people around me who are dependent on resources being handed to them from me. Too many organizations don't get that. Too many businesses over-resource people who aren't doing anything yet. So he said, I want you to learn to be resourceful, not dependent on resources being given to you. And those resources are in relationships that you will build. This is why I think, by the way, Jesus didn't own anything. He didn't need to. All he needed to do was to know people who had what he may need. So he spent his life borrowing. So he borrowed boats to speak from and to travel in. And he borrowed a donkey to ride on. And he borrowed a tomb to be buried in. All his life, he surrounded himself with people who had resources, and those resources were the supply of his life. That's why you got to learn early on that you need to own a lot less than you think you do. My new mantra now, when I go shopping for clothes or in a men's shop, my new mental mantra is this: if I like it, it's because I've already got it. Because you forget what you've got. I've got so much stuff at home, I forget what I've got. So I'm thinking, I like this because I've bought it before. It's saved me a lot of money recently, this last year or two, doing that. It's that. The stuff we own and think we need more of that, you don't need as much as you think you do. Sometimes our relationship with stuff is far more deeply psychological than we think it is in terms of our certainty and security and our attachment to things, and that's a lot to do with background and so on, I know. But Jesus didn't own anything. Sometimes the friends you most need are friends in low places. I know we all hope the celebrities join the church and all that stuff. But you know what? Every major move of God through history has been grassroots. It hasn't been top down, it's been bottom up. You remember when the spies wanted to get into Jericho? The key person was a prostitute, a friend in a low place, and she had the keys to the city. The resources of overthrowing an entire city, their resources for that were in their relationship that they made with someone they didn't judge or exclude, but said, this woman is a massive resource to our nation. And when they invaded Jericho, they said, look, just put a scarlet ribbon, a scarlet piece of thread in your window, and all the troops of Israel will know you're the one that helped us, and will bypass you, and your family will be safe that are with you in that building. Their resources were in their relationship, and her resource for survival was in her relationship with the spies that she was kind to. I could go on. So many examples through Scripture. Once the disciples saw a man casting out a demon and they stopped him because he wasn't part of their group. Go figure. Seriously. They stopped a man casting out a demon because he wasn't in their church. He wasn't in their little group with Jesus. And they proudly said to Jesus, hey, you'd be so proud of us. Today, we stopped a guy casting out a demon because he wasn't one of us. He was even using your name. How cheeky can you be? He's not one of us. And Jesus said, wow. If you guys had a brain, you'd be dangerous, all of you. Is maybe what he was thinking. And he said, listen, you shouldn't have done that. He said, because, and when he said what he said next, this is his philosophy about people. He said, because if people aren't against us, they're for us. Wow. When I saw that years ago, it changed my whole mindset towards our city. If people aren't against us and they're not, aren't you to give them a reason to be? If people aren't against you, they're for you. And what he's saying is this: don't make your 80% friend your 20% enemy. There are people you have far more in common with than you don't, but the bits you don't share with them, the values that you don't share with them, the bits where you're not aligned, we major on those 20% and let that be our division. And there's a whole 80% of connection and similarity and potential resources for whatever you may need. 80%. And what we've done for generations in the church, we have demonized people who actually were 80% kind of on our side. And we majored on the 20% as if we think there's pride in that and there's purity in that and there's spirituality in that. And we've missed out on the 80% that actually would bring far more to us than the 100%ers sat in the building. And so I began to build friends with people in the city on that basis and included them and reached out to them. And so many 80% and less friends in our city became huge allies of us through the decades that I pastored there, because I'd realized early on, I am limited. As Josh said a moment ago to us all, he's limited what he can bring to you, as we all are. So I'm going to do what I can do, then I'm going to bring others to do what I can't do. Brilliant, beautiful. That's called servant leadership. And so I realized I can't bring to this church or this team of leaders around me, I can't bring to them what they were going to need. So we all, our team, all of us need to build relationships and networks, many of which are only 60% our friends and 40% our enemies. But let's not focus on the differences. Let's focus on the commonalities and the common values. And we built so many friendships in our city that people would think, wow, can you be friends with those people? Yeah, because actually they have a lot in common with us. And they were kind to us. And they were the phone numbers often we most needed in the 30 plus years that I was pastoring in that church.